Training to failure every session is something I've been working on over the past year, and I've grown to love it. But after lifting weights for 15 years, I have realized that it is a skill that you have to learn in order to get all the benefit out of it and to actually enjoy it enough to want to do it consistently. How do I know what weight to choose? I feel like I'm gonna hurt myself. I'm not feeling it where I should be feeling it. And what's the difference between form failure and muscle failure? Are all the things I've worked through, and I'm gonna share how in this episode. So let's get into it. But first, a quick update. Personally, we're going on our honeymoon. So we're going to Japan, and it's something actually that probably 6 years ago, we decided that at the end of our kind of nomadic life, which lines up perfectly with our honeymoon, that we would go and spend a long time in Japan. So we're going for a handful of weeks, and it's our first time like fully exploring like this. So it's going to be so amazing because we have zero plans, like none at all. I don't want to do anything touristy. We live in Asia. We've been to a ton of different Asian cities. I think it's just not how we want to travel. We want to do what we enjoy doing. So that is like just exploring and wandering, going to gyms, of course, and just trying different foods and just kind of like setting up like we live there. So excited for that. On the nutritionist side of things, the next Create Your Shape will start January 12th. And so in November and December is when we'll be having open enrollment for that. Create Your Shape is my nutrition program for ladies who lift weights and want to look like they lift weights. And right now, when you get signed up by December 6th, you will get the bonus. So we have that coming up. And now in Create Your Shape, there is a Create Your Shape training program. I am so excited for this because there is such a need for ladies to be able to train with a hypertrophy focus where everything is set up to be super efficient and effective to actually grow the muscle in the shape that they want to build. So that also is bringing up lots of training questions as I was writing and as I was reviewing different forms. And it's really gotten me to think about training more. And it's why I want to cover this topic with you of training to failure and the actual skill of developing the skill of training to failure in today's episode. And then if you are an alumni of Create Your Shape, so meaning you've done 2 rounds of Create Your Shape, you'll want to be paying attention to what I'm sending you via email because I've got really cool stuff coming out for you guys. And in addition to that, I also have 2 one-on-one spots open for alumni only. So this is if you've done 2 rounds of Create Your Shape, and only 2 spots because those have a time limit. So that's kind of the quick update on what's going on with me. If you're interested in any of that, you can go to the links in the show notes at jennythenutritionist.com/create-your-shape for the program. Or if you're an alumni, you can shoot me an email if you want to take one of those 2 spots. All right, let's talk about what I've really worked on over this past year in training to failure. You guys, this has made the biggest difference in what I get out of each training session. And honestly, it has made training so much more fun. Like I cannot emphasize that enough. And so I remember people telling me like, okay, you gotta train harder, you gotta train to failure, all that for a long time. And I had some experience with it in CrossFit because they really do push you there. But it would be, in a setting where it kind of felt like a competition setting where everyone's around you telling you exactly what to do and you're kind of like peer pressured into it in a good way, peer pressured into it, and it was only on certain days. But taking that and applying it to bodybuilding hypertrophy training when generally you're by yourself and you've got like a list of set of program to do when you're completely like in a gym figuring out by yourself is totally different. So I wasn't coming from zero, but I definitely was not doing it with bodybuilding every single session. And I think that's the key difference here is maybe it's like, oh yeah, I train hard, or oh, I think I go to failure, but are you truly doing it? And are you doing it every single session? Because that is what's going to be the game changer. Now, I know there's some like stigma out there like, oh, so-and-so, this report or this research paper said don't train to failure. You want to be like 2 reps shy or 3 reps shy. And in like practicality, is that the word? In real life, that does not work because training to failure is subjective. So that's the first thing, because I see people who are like, I am going to failure, and they send me the videos and they are not. Every single time, they are not. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you say, okay, well, I'm going to do, 2 or 3 reps shy of it. How do you know what that is if you haven't consistently trained to failure? So I see that there's a use case for that, maybe on specific things where there's like injury prevention. I see there's a use case for that, but you're going to get so much out of training to failure on the majority of your exercises. So let's go through how I overcome all these obstacles and kind of the path I took, because a lot of this is going to be super helpful if this is a similar journey that you're on or want to be on. The first thing was knowing what muscle was I actually trying to work and grow with each exercise. That is the first thing. So every exercise, right, before I even do the exercise, I think about like, okay, do I feel confident I know the exact muscle that's getting worked here? That's also why I labeled it in the Create Your Shape training program. So that way you know, right? You know exactly what you're working to, why you perform the exercise, because that's what you're going to want to find, that mind muscle connection, and contract that muscle, and making sure that muscle is being contracted throughout the rep. So that's step one for sure. That made a huge difference in itself, or it made me feel confident that I was moving in the right direction, even if I didn't like feel it correctly. I knew that that's where I was going. So that goes into the next thing. So once I knew the muscle that I wanted to work, then I need to set up my positioning in my entire setup in my form, so that way I could execute the movement and know that I was working the muscle I needed to work. So that would mean, like, if it's my my machine, making sure, like, playing around with the levers and knowing, like, okay, what if I move it here? What if I move it here? And it was me, like, Googling, ChatGPT, asking for help to be like, okay, what if I move it here? What if I move it here? Oh, this is where I feel it really work really well. Even if it's the cables, it's like literally knowing, like, okay, actually I go to this line on the floor and that's where it works really well. I move this bench to this line and then I put my foot 1 foot back, like these type of cues and these type of notes, so that way I could set it up and then have that set and do it consistently. So I know I could then contract that muscle. Next, along with that, I had a big aha of thinking of the body as different levers, right? So I used to think that I would just go in and I would just like move my whole body to achieve the goal of a rep, but really thinking of your body as like a lever of like, okay, my muscle in my arm moves this way, right? And kind of like, oh, and then I can bend here, and then everything is just set. Right? So it's not like you're like changing and shifting around. You really set your body into a specific position, and then you just move like at one like break. So like let's say like RDLs, right? So a hip hinge. Everything else is locked and set, and then you are just hinging at the hip. That aha was huge for me, because then I felt really confident just working on my glutes and the stretch in my hamstrings, and not worrying about everything else, or not worried about like I'm gonna hurt my back, because everything else was just locked and set in that position. So once I got those two down, then I would do lots of warm-ups. So I would spend more time in the gym, or I would spend more time on each exercise and then remove different exercises, so that way I could just spend more time on that single exercise to practice it. So I would do lots and lots of warm-ups, like 4 sets, 3 sets, until I felt like, okay, I am getting it. This is, again, it's a skill that you have to practice to really get the movement. And so during that like practice time, I would make sure, and this is where I get to, I literally close my eyes on so much of my training, because I want to like really, really focus on the muscles that I'm using. And so in that time, I would maybe add in some like tempo work where I would go really slow, so that way I can really make sure that I'm in a good position and I feel it at every single part of the whole like range of motion, to feel confident and solid in it. perfect example, I haven't done pendulum squats, which is pretty much like you're squatting, but with a machine that's kind of tilted at a 45-degree angle. And so I've added those in now. So I haven't done them in my program really at all before. And so I've added them in. Now, I say I am gaining confidence before I'm making gains, because I am doing lightweight and I'm just doing tempo. So I'm going down for 3 seconds, then I'm holding a pause, and then I'm driving up. Down for 3 seconds, holding a pause, and then going up. Because I don't feel confident yet going heavy, because I am not consistent. Every rep doesn't feel like the exact same. It feels like, oh wait, that I put a little more pressure on my like right toe, and I kind of like felt like a weird tingle in my knee. That doesn't feel good. I need to make sure I'm consistent, where every single rep is consistent. So I set my form, I go down at the same tempo, I squeeze the same muscles to push through. Every single rep needs to feel the exact same, so I am in control. So I'm getting there on my pendulum, but I'm working on it. I'm doing tempo. I'm doing lots of warm-ups. And I'm just spending more time with it to kind of befriend the exercise. So one, I can feel confident executing. I can build up to that failure so I'm not afraid of it. With that is like an emphasis that I want to share, is like every single rep should feel the same. Right? Nothing should be changing or moving around in the rep. It should, like, you lock in, you know what muscle. So that's something I really want to emphasize, is every rep should feel the exact same. So it's almost like an assembly line worker. Like if you're putting like potatoes on someone's plate, right? You're going to do that the exact same way every time. Like that's how detailed it needs to be with your training. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to put my elbow out, I'm going to scoop and put it down, or, oh, I'm going to grab a bigger scoop this time. No, it's the exact same every single time, right? So your positioning, your tempo, where you're stopping, what muscles you're activating to go back up. Like you want to make sure it's consistent. That's how you gain confidence there. So then as you go heavier, what happens is you get to a point where your form breaks down, right? And so what happens when your form breaks down is you start activating other muscles and you start moving your body to compensate for when your muscle starts getting fatigued. We don't want to do that, right? This is where you have to mentally lock in and stay in it. You have to stay focused. You'll hear people say, like, fight for it, fight for it. That is a mental game, right? It's not a muscular game. It's a mental game, because you could do more weight if you started moving around and you started like engaging other muscles. You could do more weight. So this is what I think where people get like risky and they like feel like they're going to hurt themselves. One, because everything I just talked about, but two, because they start using other muscles and they're shifting their body instead of staying locked in and staying in that complete, like that same exact form every single time. You have to lock in to keep that, because your body's going to say, oh, wait, I can lift this more. I'm just going to shimmy and try to do this and that. You can't do that. You've got to stay in it. And this is the difference between form failure and muscle failure. So you want to go to muscle failure, but you do that by staying in control of your form and making sure that your form is locked in, and then you're just focused on the muscle failure. So you're just contracting whatever muscle that you're working until that goes to failure. But you can't do that without saying mine. You got to stay in the form, stay in the form, stay in the form, stay in the form. So when I'd lose, like at the end, I'd kind of lose the ability to contract. And that's in a skill too. So thinking about like hip thrust, right? I would do it and it would get heavy. And so then I would start like shifting my body around and breaking my form instead of staying focused on the contraction and practice contracting my glutes when it got heavy. This whole thing that I'm describing right now is a skill, right? You're gonna notice this as you go, and it takes practice to stay in it. So the other thing that I want to add to this is that you want to likely remove exercises that feel way too risky. This is what I did. I removed deadlifts it doesn't make sense for me to do deadlifts outside of like RDLs, especially when I have access to machines. It just feels like too much of a risk, especially if the whole goal is to train hard and to build muscle. There are so many other things I can do that I can actually go to failure with without the risk of deadlifts. Same with squats, right? I removed squats completely because there were so many other things that I could do where I didn't have to have that risk there. Now I'm adding, I intentionally did not do pendulums because I was afraid of them because I could just feel like I was going to hurt myself every time. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn the skill of failure on other things first and do other exercises where I'm working my quads, and then I'll go back and introduce pendulum squats. And that's where I'm at now with the pendulum squats. So when you start training this way, which you can see why it takes months, and for me, it's been a year thing that I've been doing, which I feel really confident in now, but still not with everything. But it really changes it from, all right, you're going into workout or you're going in to do a movement or you're just moving weight to, oh, this is a skill that I am mastering. So it's really a complete mindset shift, but it takes you from just like, okay, I'm working out, moving my body to like, oh no, I'm an athlete where I'm learning a skill and developing a skill where I'm going to get better and better every single week. That is so much fun. It really becomes like you do feel like an athlete. You feel like you're going to each workout with a purpose, and it becomes really enjoyable. And with that, as you gain that connection with your muscle, it feels really fun. But then all these little cues that just make it feel better and feel more enjoyable keep adding up. So for example, we had one of our friends in town who is been a trainer, and he's a pro, really, really good. And he just gave me one little cue that someone's probably told me before, but it just the way, like I was to a point where I realized it and understood it, and it made such a big difference. So this was actually using my breath and the timing of when to use my breath with each set or each rep. And it feels so much better. It feels so much stronger, but also it feels very meditative. So it's really taking like big, deep breaths and then pushing through. Exhaling, big, deep breath. And it's been really, really helpful. Okay, so next, now that you have kind of gone through all of this, the next thing is weight selection. So here's the thing with weight selection. People are like, I have no idea what weight to do. And this is where, again, you're going to practice, you're going to play around with until you find it. So I will say, I remember this exact time. It was last year. I was at a different gym. Our gym wasn't ready yet. And I was doing lateral raises, or was it lateral raises? I think it was shoulder presses. And I was like, okay, I typically feel like I go pretty heavy here. And I'm like, all right, let's see though if I am at the right weight to go to failure. Even though my workout said to do 10 to 12, I picked up a weight that I thought I was going to do for 10 to 12, but I said, okay, I'm going to go until this muscle cannot go anymore. I'm going to go to absolute failure. And I got 17. So clearly I needed to go heavier, right? If the rep scheme was 10 to 12, I needed to go heavier. So I would use your rep scheme as a guidance, especially as while you're learning. And instead, you're just going to go to failure. So keep going. Then if you get 15, if you get 17, like, okay, I need to go up. I need to do heavier weights than that. And then you're going to guess, and then you're going to do it again. And you're going to do as many as you can. Same thing, right? So that is a skill. And that is like an exercise you can do to see if you are really like choosing weight wisely or not. The next thing is you're going to track everything. So I put in the notes app in my phone, but every single session, you're going to track the exercise that you're doing. You're going to track the weight, and you should be on a progressive overload training program. That's the training program we're doing in Create Your Shape, but that's what's optimal for hypertrophy, aka building muscle, where you're doing the same training every week. So you can progress, right? Progressive overload. So you can progress every week. But in order to do that, you have to track your weights. So that way, when you go to the exercise next week, you know, okay, this is what I learned last week, that my, 20 pounds was too light. I need to go heavier. I got 17 reps last time at 20 pounds. I should really only be getting 12 reps. So if I'm going to be going to failure, then I need to go, let's try 25 pounds. Let's try 27 pounds, right? So that's how it works. But you only know that because you have that information you have those notes from last week. You also want to have setup notes in there. If all those little cues you want to have. So, okay, I put my foot on the first line, and then on the second line, I put my other foot. Okay, I go to, well, if you're using a cable, it's like, all right, I put it at the like fourth click down. Those things you want to have written down so that we don't have to rediscover it every single time. So other things that have really helped me along the way is training with others, especially others who are better than me, because then I can see what I'm really capable of. So I think people have this misconception that like, oh wait, like, well, I'm not that strong, or like, well, I don't lift weights like that. It's like, yeah, but that's why you could be lifting weights, because all females, yes, there is a strength range, but it's not that wide, right? So every female, if you think about it, generally, if you think about someone who's like anywhere from like 5'1" to like 5'5", your muscle mass, right? The only like real difference of your muscle mass is how much muscle you've grown. So everyone's capable of that. And so sure, there may be a slight strength range, but in general, like there's going to be a close range of how strong people can be. And so that's what you can be like, okay, I can do that, right? She's got glute muscles. I've got glute muscles, right? She got her glutes really big because she got her weights up to be able to lift that amount. I am capable of that too. So it's really cool and good to see and train with other people. It's fun, but also then you can see what you're capable of, or you can just watch YouTube, right? Watch other people. You can see, like, I watch people's stories and I like say, I pause it to be like, wait, how much weight is she using, right? To know like, okay, wait, I'm in the ballpark, or like, oh, whoa, I need to lift a lot more here because I'm not even in the range. So now you have kind of the layout of like different skills to start working on, but it will get to a point where you have this down, and then you go into a training session and you realize it's not based on how much energy you have that day, or how you're feeling that day, or what you want to do that day, or like how much motivated you are that day. You go in and you just go off of what you did last week, and you know you need to improve from last week. So whether that is increasing how many reps you get or how much weight you're doing, it's one of those two. So it's not like let me decide what weight I'm going to do. No, I know exactly what I need to do. I know exactly how many reps I need to hit in order to progress. So then it's almost like a mini competition every day that you go in, and that is very fun, because then I can say, all right, am I making progress or not? And it's very clear. There's no guessing. So with that, I would say the last and final thing is the mental commitment to it. So you can say this is a skill that you're going to learn, and then once you have the skill, it is pushing it to that degree every single training session. It really helps when you just go off of like, not off of your like vibe or your mood, but going off of like, okay, what do my notes say that I need to achieve in order for this to be a progress? And really deciding. I mean, it took me a couple months to decide to be this person. And I decided that I don't want to waste my time. That's really it. I decided that like if I'm in here, I want to make a change, because if you get to a point where you've been lifting for a while, which a lot of you guys have, right? If you just keep kind of casually doing it, you're not really going to make much progress, right? You're not going to make a like actual shift where you're like, whoa, I look different. And so when you get to that point, like past that beginner stage, right? You're just going to keep doing the same things, and your body's just not going to change. And so it really got to that point where I was like, wait, this is like something that I enjoyed to do. I can just keep doing the same, but it kind of doesn't feel fun to me if I'm just going in for not making any improvements and I'm just doing just to maintain. Instead, I want to be somebody who is making a big transformation and hitting big goals, but I also want to be someone who is an athlete, who goes in and can perform and can train at that level and really take pride in that and take this seriously and enjoy it. Enjoy the process, enjoy all the little ahas I get, all of the little like connection with my muscle and connecting with the fiber muscles. Like, I am having so much fun training now. I am really, really, really enjoying it. And it's been a huge 180 from a year ago, even though I've been training and lifting weights for 15 years, I'm having the most fun that I've ever had because I went through this process. Now, nobody taught me this. I kind of figured it out on my own because I was like, wait a minute, other people are doing it. I know I can do it. I just got to figure out how and why. And these were all the roadblocks and all the things that I discovered along the way. So I am going to assume a lot of you guys are feeling a lot of these too. And so now you have a roadmap as well to help you learn the skill of training to failure. And if you want to learn it with my support, then you can join us in Create Your Shape. You can go to jennythenutritionist.com/create-your-shape or the link in the show notes, and you will get immediately get access to the new Create Your Shape training program too, so you can get started on that as soon as you get signed up. All right, you guys, enjoy training to failure and getting better at the skill of it. And I'll see you next week on the Create Your Shape podcast.